The Silver Screen Project.
Welcome to the Silver Screen Project, where we look back at a series of films in anticipation of an exciting new cinema release.
In preparation for Meg 2, The Trench, we went back and watched The Meg, and now it's time for the main event. We've literally come straight from the cinema to record this. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. It was kind of what I was hoping for on the rewatch of The Meg, the original Meg. It was crazier than the first one. It had some pretty fun action sequences and little set pieces. I just think it was a better film than the first. It wasn't a perfect film, but I had a really fun time watching it, to be honest. How about you?
Yeah, fair enough. I had fun watching it. I think it was more fun than the first one. I think it's way sillier, and
definitely
it knows that it's sillier.
It gets very silly, doesn't it?
And we'll get into some of the stuff that just makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think it's a great film by any stretch.
No.
But I mean, we were there together. I laughed through a lot of that film.
Some of it are bits we maybe weren't supposed to necessarily laugh at, but you know.
Yeah, but part of me feels like it's one of those films where you're meant to laugh at the bits you're not meant to laugh at, kind of thing.
Yeah, the overly serious kind of moments, or the one-liners that are like, come on, like that's clearly, yeah. But we're trying to stay non-spoilers for the first couple of minutes because it's in the cinemas now. In case you happen to have turned this on and you're rushing to try and stop us spoiling it for you.
Yeah.
So overall, like, we spoke about in the first one that there was kind of 3 distinct segments to the film.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the marketing, I think they focus on the one particular section of this film, which is the stuff above land. But there is quite a lot of stuff in the trench.
Yeah.
And I feel like it does that stuff much better than the first film.
Yeah, I think the first one was in 3 parts. I think this one is in distinct 2 parts. It's the first half and the second half. Yeah. But they go together a bit better as if it's one film. I think the second half is more entertaining. There was parts of the first half that were a bit boring,
generic kind of,
in situations where like it shouldn't have been boring.
No, I would say, I mean, I don't think it's spoilers to say the first half is in the trench and the second half is not in the trench.
Yeah.
But the first half, I felt it gave the vibes of kind of like a space film, because there's lots of stuff with suits and kind of and creatures and getting into places.
Like futuristic tech,
which we won't spoil that because I thought that was quite a fun little thing.
Yeah.
Although they didn't really do much with it in the end. I think that was a bit of a shame.
I thought we were teased one thing that they could do that we never really saw.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree, yeah. But I think that generally speaking, they spent more time in the trench than in the first one, hence the name. Yeah. And they do kind of make some good use of that. There's some extra creatures that are new for this film.
Yeah, it's always a thing when you get a sequel to a monster movie, you either need to have like bigger, more, or like different.
And they kind of do
all 3.
Do all the 3. Yeah, I think the cast is kind of crazy as it was in the first one, in that there's just so many people that you kind of realize, oh wait, most of these people aren't going to survive. Yeah. And that's pretty much the case.
I think you leaned over to me and said, like, there's loads of people in this. And
there was a point at the start where there's a situation going on, there's a bit of tension, and everyone's kind of round the glass looking out the window. And there was just new people everywhere I looked.
Yeah, it's like every time like Jason Statham or one of the other main characters said something, the camera would go to a different new person.
Yeah,
and it was like, okay, bizarre. This is the person too.
And also they did my cardinal sin of films is they had 2 actors or actresses in this case that looked exactly the same.
You love it.
And I was like, what the I could tell the difference because they didn't look that similar. But once they're in like the murkiness and they've got the diving helmets on, I was like, it's kind of hard to tell who just died there and who did.
I don't really know who you're referring to, so I may have just thought they were the same person.
Yeah. The person who had the implosion helmet situation, that wasn't the same person as the person who aims the thing at him later.
Yeah, of course.
yeah. And carrying over from the first one, we got some returning characters, some more welcome than others, actually. I was surprised that there was a favourite of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Who was not a favourite in the first one.
A very dramatic character change that isn't like from the start, so it kind of like throws you off.
No.
It slowly develops and you're like, the fuck has this guy been doing?
And it actually kind of did the thing that you hope with the sequel, and it solved some of my complaints from the first one. I was like, this character was annoying. There was things they couldn't do, which they had no right to not know how to do. And they kind of just wave it away with like, I think they literally say like something about Jaws 2, and it's like, okay, this is a meta thing, right?
Yeah. They all do also wave away some of the non-returning characters. They're just like,
yes,
oh yeah,
made me laugh.
This person died between films.
No explanation of why. I guess the actress just didn't want to come back for that. I think Jason Statham is pretty much as you'd expect.
Yeah, he's way more actiony in this one than he was in the first one. In the first one, he was a submarine diver. In this one, he's Jason Statham.
Well, they kind of introduce more throughout, actually. They have more human enemies in various ways. And I think that was quite a good aspect to this, because it meant that in the moments between the shark stuff, there was still stuff to do. I can see you're not so much a fan of that.
I think it took away a bit.
Yeah, fair enough. I think compared to like, I suppose even in like the Godzilla films, they do that, and that doesn't always, like Charles Dance is there like, I'm evil and I've got reasons to be evil, and you're like, but do you, kind of thing. I think like having there's an opening sequence which is completely unrelated where Jason Statham fights a load of people. I was like, this is fun. It kind of gets you into it.
Oh yeah.
That was when our 3D, we saw this in 3D.
Yeah.
The last film I saw in 3D was Avatar 2. So apparently every underwater film I have to see in 3D.
I haven't seen a 3D film in at least 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And for the first 10 minutes of the film, our 3D glasses didn't work.
No, they didn't work.
I think they had to change the settings
the
or do something.
projections were too far apart or something. Yeah. And so that kind of distracted from the opening. But it was a little action bit with Jason Statham.
And well, no, the actual opening was set in ancient days.
Oh yeah, well I completely missed that because I was trying to get my
cool.
Yeah, and that was I think that might have been in one of the trailers I'd seen. It's a whole chase of different prehistoric creatures, and it ends with like a Meg getting a T-Rex or something, doesn't it? And maybe some of those creatures might turn up again later in the film.
Yeah, for some reason.
Yeah, there's a bit of Jurassic Park in this actually, isn't there?
And there's a couple of bits I noted down that are like direct references to Jurassic Park.
Even the setting, I think it's supposed to be an island off China somewhere, because again, this is, I mean, the amount of logos of Chinese companies at the start, it must have been about 15.
I read as well that because of the whole strikes and stuff going on, they couldn't really do proper promo for this.
Right.
So they cancelled the premiere in like LA or something, but they had their world premiere in Beijing.
Right.
Because this is
does that mean so they're not part of the same guilds, I guess? No.
But I guess this probably had some Chinese funding, and there's lots of Chinese characters in it. And again, they go
about a third of the dialogue is in Mandarin or Cantonese as well. Isn't it? Yeah, I'm not an expert.
So they're definitely like looking at that market.
Even like some of, I mean, it makes sense in world, but some of the like displays and stuff are in Chinese. So yeah,
let's get into spoilers. So one thing that just. It's pretty vague, but like this film was very funny compared to the first one. And like the way that some characters die or get eaten, and as you said, some of those one-liners where it's just like,
what do you say? See you later, chum.
Yeah,
that's actually kind of clever, actually.
It's so ridiculous, and the return of Pippin the dog from the first film.
That was a fan favorite. Well, in the first film, I think we were both kind of like, whatever. But as soon as you see that dog, and I was like, and the woman was now like Australian. Maybe she was Australian in the first one, but she didn't speak English. Or maybe Pippin had a new owner. That was funny. I thought I don't know the name of the actor, but the Chinese lead, I was kind of on and off with him because
I quite liked him.
He was a bit charmless at times, but I think that was more because the cast in general felt like they were all acting separately at times.
Yeah.
But he definitely, and this sounds like a bit like, because he's Chinese, but he brought like a bit of a Jackie Chan energy to some of the action scenes.
Because
he did quite a lot of overacting and kind of comedic action stuff, which I thought worked, especially like the parts with the helicopter and stuff at the end.
Him and the other guy are just like, they're Laurel and Hardy out there.
Yeah, it's like a combination of like who's going to distract, who's not, and they're like, and that's very like Rush Hour or like the one with Owen Wilson, Cowboys, with Jackie Chan, of course. And and then like jumping up, he falls off the helicopter, he's spraying the dinosaurs. There's these little weird dog dinosaurs in it that can somehow you survive on the earth as well as underwater.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit.
And the bit with the explosion that seems to kind of knock him back onto the helicopter. It's just complete over the
very
top
slapstick.
Stuff. Yeah,
And with character we were talking about, he changed. DJ played by what's his name? Curtis.
I don't know his name.
Something.
I don't
something Curtis. But yeah, in the first one, he's like the IT nerd.
Yeah, and he makes a big point about not swimming, and that's a bit of a stereotype as well. So it's kind of like played for laughs. But he's like, I know, and they're like, but why the fuck? And he's like, because I'm supposed to be safe. Or whatever.
He kind of says in this film, after the events of the first one, he's spent like 5 years training himself. He's got a survival bag. He's been doing this.
It's just like a normal like leather rucksack, but he's got like a Desert Eagle like pistol. He's got like
a mirror in there to look around corners,
taser, pepper spray, all this stuff, condoms, anything emergency.
But it's a bit where the bad guys like take over their base, and he just starts beating them up, and you're just like, what?
It was crazy. And even the guy that's with him is like, what the fuck, DJ? Like, and he's like, man, like I had to sort shit out. You know?
Yeah, like, he's very entertaining. And there's that bit right at the end where like one of the last little dog dinosaurs appears and it's going to eat the little girl, and it jumps. He does the dramatic slow motion dive and shoots it in the head,
like a John Woo Matrix fucking slow-mo jump, and he like headshots it. It's crazy. I love that bit. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
The tech that we talked about earlier, they're effectively like Iron Man exoskeletons,
yeah.
And the idea is that they can walk around and make repairs on the ship, but they show a bit where it can like punch through stuff, and it's
punch through like a concrete block.
It's like super strong. And there's only really one scene with those dog things where they kind of fight, but even that they're getting overpowered. It's not. I was
expecting like it to punch a shark or something.
Yeah. And the thing as well is that once they're out of the trench, they leave those suits in the place, and even the guy, the human bad guy who's called Montez or something like that, I think he was called. I can't remember. He's the Latino guy who he was okay.
He gave me Whiplash, Iron Man 2 vibes.
Oh, okay. I kind of got Danny Trejo vibes, which is slightly racist, but it's the face shape and the kind of, he had longish hair and a mustache. And and he's like inexplicably like in a relationship with the hacker girl. Yeah. I did kind of see that coming, because there's a moment where she's kind of looking guilty.
It was so obvious that twist.
Yeah. But did you think she was the ex-wife then from the first film?
No.
Okay.
No, but you just wanted me that she didn't come back.
Yeah, she didn't come back because she's the only other blonde character I can think of.
Jason Statham's other love interest is
she's the one who died in 2021. Yeah. Just say she died. Yeah. So those suits, I feel like, were a little bit underused. I feel like there was some good potential for like an above ground Meg fight kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the Megs were. I don't know if you noticed this, but I feel like they looked a lot more like book accurate than
especially the main one that kind of turns out to be a good guy.
We said last time that in the books they're like white because they live deep water, but they just look like great whites.
They do a thing with their eyes in this, which is almost like Finding Nemo, like sniffing blood. They like flip over almost. I don't know if that was supposed to be anything to do with
thing.
Yeah, it was a bit strange, but it's kind of obviously telegraphed from the start that this shark is going to be like somewhat friendly, but then they kind of like turn it back at the end, like, oh, was it just the dolphins or not? It's kind of fun. I like that they didn't lean in fully to like this shark is friendly and loves you kind of thing. It's more just like, and there's a giant octopus in this.
There's a giant octopus, which
doesn't get as much play.
I wrote down as well as like, not a single one of the main characters ever mentions that there's an octopus or there's a giant octopus from the trench. A couple of them like fight it for a bit, but nobody's like, because their whole thing is discovering new species in the trench.
So that's an addition, right?
None of them ever were like, oh, there's also a giant octopus living down there.
Because the guy that dies, the nerd guy who's barely in it at all, and they tease him for having like figurines in his sub. Yeah, he's the guy who gets killed. Really, he's the first death from it.
Gets killed by the octopus,
but it for some reason just grabs him and then just like hides or disappears. I think they changed something around then.
I reckon they cut a scene or something where
they might have just added the whole octopus thing. Yeah, it was all CG, so there's no reason why. It might have been something else they thought there instead. At
one point where I think when you
would have thought they'd do an ADR like, oh no, an octopus.
There's one bit where it was attacking the beach, and I was like, wait a minute, nobody's actually mentioned this octopus. we mentioned the similarities to Jurassic Park. Lots of the island. There's these bits with these dog dinosaurs where they're running through the long grass, like in 3 distinct rows. And I was like, whilst the guy then jumps in like a little rover, it's a small version and like drives off. And I was like,
it's very,
come on.
Even, the area looks like this kind of Hawaiian kind of, or where is it supposed to be set near?
It's China, isn't it?
Yeah, no, sorry, in Jurassic Park.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, yeah. It looks like that kind of thing, yeah. I thought the bit where Jason Statham, there's a couple of improvised weapon things. He makes the spears with the explosives, which are kind of semi-effective.
Yeah, that one shot silly. Of the shark with the top of his head blown up.
I found it quite hard to follow how many sharks there were, because was one of the 3... the one that's friendly, it was, right, okay,
and when it got towards the end, I was like, I'm not sure how many sharks. It was the same with the dog dinosaurs, like,
there was
I presume they got them all.
Of them, yeah. But there's that, and then the bit that I really liked, which was very silly, was Jason Statham using the helicopter blade as like a big sword spear thing.
So silly.
And he like splashes the water to try and get the attention because it's going for his friends, and then as it comes up, he kind of just like spears it through their heads.
I'd love somebody to look into like how strong a man would have to be to hold up a shark and a helicopter blade like that.
There's a bit that I remember people picking from the trailers, and it's when he's on the dock and it's kind of getting up to him and it gets caught on chains and it stops, but it looks like he's using his foot to kind of stop it. And I think people took that frame, and maybe the chains weren't edited in yet, and they were like, is Jason Statham stopping a shark with his foot? Just like, it almost gets to that point.
It did kind of look like that, I think at one point when it got towards the end, I was like, a lot of the action, like comedy in this, it reminded me. We mentioned like Sharknado type stuff, because of sharks, but a lot of like the action stuff was quite like Bollywood as well. Like, I think like we've talked about RRR a few times on the main. That kind of like silly jumping from helicopters.
You know what it was? Stuff. It was very Fast and Furious, to be honest. It was very like the non-car side of that. And Jason Statham's in Hobbs and Shaw, so he's not unused to this kind of thing, unfamiliar with that kind of thing. I think the kind of when it's ramping up the silliness, especially in the last third of it, and it goes sillier and sillier, and then they do that kind of feeling is what I felt watching the newest one in the cinema. Like, it's not good, and that it doesn't really make sense, but as long as it's kind of keeping going, you're kind of like, I'm here.
I feel like it's probably got a similar target audience as the more recent parts.
Any Jason Statham stuff. The human enemies we spoke about a little bit. I kind of like that there was stuff to kind of bridge the gap between the shark stuff.
See, my issue with that is that like they were just kind of anonymously bad. They were getting minerals from the trench or whatever.
And there was the lady who, when they were like, who's the bad guy? And it's like, okay, well, there's only one character we haven't seen again yet. And it's like, it's the woman who did a bit of a speech at the start. And she's just evil. But the fact that she was even there in the first place was bizarre. Like, she wouldn't travel down. I'm just going to go see what's going on with my own eyes. Oh no, I'm eaten by a dinosaur. It's like, come on, mate. Like, you wouldn't be doing that, would you?
I just felt that like, in that section of the film, as they kind of when they get to the base in the trench up until the beach, there's very little like monster stuff.
I appreciate
it's mainly fighting these like anonymous henchmen.
There's just the one bit with the don't paddle and don't turn your boats on, which actually that was quite a fun bit where the guy's like, there was like 2 Australian guys and he's like, I've got the shot, and he's like, well, take it then, and then he's about to shoot them and the whole boat and DJ's like, they ate the whole boat.
Everyone's a terrible shot in this, as they always are. But it was just it was a good like half hour where that was like the only bit of shark we saw, and I was like, I was happy that at the end the sharks and the octopus came back in, because up until that point they were a bit of a backdrop to the plot.
I think thinking back to the first one, I think the reason I appreciate that is because in the first one there was gaps where there was no shark, but there wasn't any enemy at all. It was just like, oh no, we haven't got a boat, or oh no, like we're having an argument or whatever.
Non-stop
and there was
action.
No real like human plots in this at all. It was Jason Statham and his adopted daughter from the first film, and him looking after her and her being a bit rebellious. That was pretty much it. And the uncle who's now in it, who I was kind of not sure if he was going to be a bad guy at one point early on.
Yes,
because he had that kind of vibe. But no, he turned out to be fine. And there was lots of new characters like this. So there was the two women, but who both had dark hair.
Yeah.
One who was helping develop the suits, and she was doing the punching. She got a puncture in her thing, and her head got imploded, which I quite like. That
quite cool,
that was one of the darker moments of the whole thing, because they were literally about to pressurize the thing,
and you get like one like frame of just this glass like stuck to her face, and then you don't see her again. You're like,
and I think that guy kind of was either like best friends with her, or there was a romantic interest, because he's like kind of dramatically cradling her body. I was thinking like in a more adult film there would have been blood all over that water because her brain got fucking imploded in.
Yeah,
although that's inconsistent with the whole Jason Statham underwater thing, which might lead us into bad stuff.
Yeah, it's negative. So let's talk about. There's a bit in the film where Jason Statham needs to go out of an airlock into another airlock.
Yeah,
but they're 25,000 feet underwater. Yes, they are, and the way they get around the pressure thing, even though we've just seen someone's face get imploded
like
by pressure
10 minutes before,
he's like, oh, if I just get water in all my sinuses, it's fine. And we see him there and like squeeze a bit and some blood comes out his nose.
Why does I guess that's the water pressure or something. But they say like water doesn't compress, it's the air that compresses.
Yeah.
And it's like, but there is pressure of the water above you, because that's the whole thing with submarines needing thick.
And like it would like, you could still like crush your
skull. Maybe what they should have said is like, because of the thermo layer, that stops the pressure, so it's like it's reset from there or something. Yeah, they should have said that. They should have been like, "Oh, it's only like we're 1,000 feet down because we're."
He's still got air in his lungs.
Yeah, because he hasn't got any gear on at all. He hasn't even got a. Yeah.
He would just.
That was the silly one. There was a couple of little jump scares, and that one there got me quite bad, because he's about to get to the door and his vision's going in and out, and he sees a Meg in the distance, and then he kind of blinks, and then suddenly there's one of these little dinosaurs there, and he has to kind of. Does he fight it or?
He shoots it with like a flare gun, and then gets in.
Yeah.
But on those fucking little dinosaurs. So we see them at the start, like eating something on a beach, and a T-Rex comes out and attacks them, and then the Meg gets the T-Rex. Mm-hmm. We then see them like swim in the water, and we see them then in the trench, and they're swimming around attacking people.
Yeah.
So obviously they've been down there for 65 million years at least, and then they come back up with the people, and they're just walking around land.
They wouldn't remember
these creatures that last went on land 65 million years ago.
There's an offhand thing where someone's like, "Oh no, they walk too," and it's like, yes, I guess they do.
I guess like they haven't evolved in 65 million years.
I guess sharks haven't either. But if they were underwater, they would have lost their feet.
Yeah, exactly. They would have evolved to swim better, and or something.
They could swim incredibly well as walk. So it doesn't really make any sense.
I was just like this, but they just wanted to have a threat on land.
It's a Jurassic Park thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that literally every single person is a trained like professional fighter now.
That's a Fast and Furious thing.
Yeah, DJ explains that he's been doing the training, but literally no other character explains why they're still really good at fighting.
To be fair, the little dynamic duo of Mac, who's the New Zealand guy who was in the first one, and the Chinese lead guy who said it was a bit like Jackie Chan. Those two were kind of useless at times. Like,
but then at other times they were like pulling out all the moves.
I don't think. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was a bit inconsistent, but that's kind of I feel like the octopus and the good shark didn't really get as much play as you'd expect.
Yeah, the octopus just kind of seemed a bit pointless.
But I think we've kind of figured out that it was an addition post filming, really, probably.
Another thing that is particularly in the first half of the film where there's like reveals, and I was like, well, yeah, obviously, but it's made like we talked about that the woman turned out to be bad. But it's also like when they first go down and they're like, oh, we're using up 11% more oxygen. It's like, well, the little girl's obviously stuck
she's
on.
Obviously going to be there.
And then they do the reveal, and then it's like, oh, and obviously things go bad.
I felt like
they say the last 24 times we've been down, there's been no Megs. I'm like, well, of course there's going to be fucking Megs now.
Well, because they literally follow the Megs as well. But I also felt like the kind of, I'm going to call it a space station, because it basically was the space station they find underground. They didn't really use that very much. Like it was fun to have a place on land where he could have a fight with that guy, and like the intrigue of like, oh shit, other people are down here. And then it turned out it was a crew of 3, and then 2 died straight away. The avalanche bit was okay. That was quite fun. It was hard. Underwater stuff is always too dark. Like, it just always
there
is.
was a lot of scenes in this, particularly underwater stuff, where like it was hard to really figure out what was happening.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, Okay.
I said at the start, I like the kind of otherworldly kind of out of space vibe that they had. It felt like they'd landed on an alien planet and they were trying to get across, or the way that they handled like being inside or outside of the subs or the space station, I'm going to call it, felt like a kind of alien style film. And I liked that because it wasn't, the first one didn't ever feel like that. It was like, we're on a boat and there's a shark outside.
Yeah.
It didn't really, even like the whole air, it was like he went out in the airlock basically and flew around like Star-Lord or whatever, wasn't it?
Like just as realistic.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple bits of trivia.
Yeah, go for it.
One of them was that Jason Statham was disappointed by the lighter tone and lack of bloodshed in this film.
Okay.
So it is lighter and funnier than the first one.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of blood still. Like the impaling through the head is pretty intense.
Yeah. We get a lot of shark blood.
Yeah.
The other one is the scene in which the Meg devours a Tyrannosaurus Rex is directly taken from the first chapter of the book Meg, a Novel of Deep Terror, which the first film is based. Which is funny because you know the opening scene to Jurassic Park 2 where it's like the family on the beach and the little compies coming in. That is the opening chapter to the first book of Jurassic Park. So it's a similar thing where it's like, actually that's a good opening thing, but we want to save it for the second one.
Or they just didn't use it and they went, actually, we should have used that.
We want our own start.
I think they definitely felt it felt more Jurassic Park than the first one, not just because of the dinosaurs. I feel like and I feel like this does have potential to be a franchise. I feel like a continuing franchise. They kind of say like it would get sillier and sillier, but it could do something with it. You could do. I'm glad they didn't do more than an octopus because I feel like that would be showing all your hand too early. They could do like a giant anglerfish. They could do they could get really silly with it, have like a big underwater dinosaur
thing. It will get to a point where they team up with the sharks to fight against a bigger enemy.
I mean, that's pretty much what they did in this. So they'll and they basically did the Blue and the Blue's babies because they were like, maybe she's pregnant from that bit. So they'll have baby sharks. You know what? Jason Statham's going to ride a baby Meg next time, isn't it?
Yes.
Because they're trained by the mum that's the friend, whatever she was called.
And the thing is, that whole training thing is like, in this, they make out they're like, we don't actually know if this is true. But come the third or fourth film where you go full silly, you would be like, we can train sharks now.
Which is exactly Jurassic World, isn't it? So
I guess the last thing to do is ask you whether or not Meg 2, The Trench, lived up to the hype.
Yeah, Proj. I had a great time watching this. Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, definite Proj. Like I mentioned last week, didn't really have much hype going into it. And I don't think it was a fantastic film, but I had fun with it, and that's all I really wanted.
I think watching this at home, it wouldn't have quite the same impact. It would definitely be a more fun watch than the first one, but I think just generally speaking, it's the moments of downtime is the stuff that loses you at home, whereas in the cinema you're stuck in for it. So I think the human stuff, like you said, until DJ starts doing crazy stuff, you'd be like, I'm bored, maybe walk out the room, come back and miss DJ's bit.
But you look at your phone and don't look back in time.
Like, what the hell?
So that is Meg 2, The Trench. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I don't know what we're doing next, but keep an ear out.
Have a little gap, but we'll be letting you know as soon as we know. And if you want more stuff like this, we got the Project on the same podcast.
We do
channel.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Blub blub blub.
Blub.